I'm like a domesticated, previously feral cat. Where I run to this office and I put on a suit and I love it and I love my job, but like part of me wants to bust out every now and then. In my life, running has been a tool for understanding my father, for thinking about myself and the things I've gone through in my life. Can you reach some element of self-transcendence? Can you give yourself a break from this life you live? The sport and a complex relationship to it is a great way to understand things that actually matter in life. So my father, he was not an athletic man. I didn't understand it then, but his marriage was falling apart to my mother. He was coming to the realization that he was gay. Like there was a lot going on in my father's mind at that point. But then my father started taking running seriously, kind of in the gym fix, 1970s running boom, self-improvement. He was struggling a lot with alcohol. Running was a way to help with that. When I was about 5 years old, I would run with my father. I remember running around the block where I lived, and then I remember running to Pine Manor College and back, which was probably 2 miles. The 1982 Boston Marathon, I remember being obsessed by the Salazar-Beardsley race and the injustices. I remember like being really focused on that race. It was like the first sporting event I remember. And then the next November, I went out to New York, and by this point my parents had split. And I went and I was at the bottom of the Queensboro Bridge, and I watched my dad come by. And that was a marathon where he wanted to break 3 hours, and he ran like 3 hours and 23 seconds, something like that. It was the thing that he had held out as like, this is what a marathoner should do. And I was like, I should run sub 3. And so, the first marathon I ran, I like took it out at sub 3 for a while and bonked and finished in 3:20. Like there was 4 or 5 or 6 marathons where I didn't get it. And then I finally got it at age 29. I ran like a 2:57 at the Delaware Marathon. And so for my dad, when I went from like 3:06 to 2:57, that was incredible. And I remember him once being like, oh, you should try for the Olympic trials. I was like, Dad, like, what are you talking about? I'm nowhere near that. And then it was after that I moved to New York, joined the Central Park Track Club, and realized, why is sub 3 the goal? Like maybe 2:40 should be the goal, right? And I just sort of entered a whole different realm. So I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer shortly after the 2005 New York Marathon. Went through really hard treatment. It was very hard for me, being so young, feeling invulnerable. The hardest part was you kind of never think you're gonna run again, right? Like you're so disoriented, you're so weak, you can't like walk around the block right after this treatment. But then gradually it came back. It was 6 months of not really being able to run and wondering like if I'd ever do it again. And so then it was truly beautiful emotionally when I was able to run again. In that window, like 2006 to 2010, I go through this cancer experience where I'm gonna die, and two, I started to have children, right? My first 2 kids are born then. Once you have kids, or once I had kids, your sense of your role in the world expands from, I'm just Nick, I'm just doing today, I have these ambitions and I have these thoughts, to, okay, I'm gonna be much more focused on whether what I'm doing today is the thing I should be doing. I ran the 2:43 at the New York Marathon in 2005, which was so exciting, right? Because my PR had been 2:57. I next ran in 2007, and I had much higher goals, and then I ran 2:43 again. But I was excited because I'd like come back from being sick. I was having children, my job was getting bigger and harder. I was working so much, and so I was actually kind of taking satisfaction in staying right at the same range. Like every marathon, I wanted to go faster. Like I wanted to break 2:40. I figured I never would do it. And so I just ran all these races, one after the other, 2:42, 2:42, 2:43, 2:43, 2:42, 2:45. I remember one guy in the Central Park Track Club nicknamed me Mr. 243, which that was annoying. In 2018, Nike writes to me and they say, we're doing this experiment, we're like gonna take a bunch of recreational athletes or non-elite athletes and give them elite coaches, do you wanna participate? And so I do it, and then I start working with Joe Holder, Brett Kirby, Steve Finley, and so I suddenly have this like elite super team. And so I start consulting them, maybe increase the mileage, right? Go from 50 miles a week to 60, right? 65, what can you do? Have you ever tried drinking beet juice? L-citrulline supplement when you go to sleep? It becomes pretty clear very quickly that I'm getting faster. Steve makes me a schedule for the Chicago Marathon, and I run 2:29. So I'm in a totally different stratosphere, right? I've spent my whole life trying to get from like 2:43, and then suddenly I'm down 14 minutes in, a year and a half of this training. And then I was like, well, let's keep going, and then COVID hit. The skill set to do a hard job correctly aren't that different from the skill set to run correctly. Like, you need to be able to focus your attention. You need to be able to like recover from stress, right? You need to be able to, like, the principle of running that you learn, that if you do put in the work, you do get better. Well, that applies to your job too, right? And if every day you work as hard as you can in the best way you can, like, you will get better, just as in running. For many of us, you can go faster than you thought you could go. After COVID, in April of 2021, I ran my best race, which was 50K. So I did that, and I set the American record, and it was amazing, and my kids thought it was very cool. Then the big races started up again, and I was like, let me go back to them. I'm gonna go run Chicago. And so I ran Chicago, but I ran at like 2:37. Then I was like, you know what, I should try something else, right? Like, I'm kind of stalled. That's when I decided to try an ultra. So I decided to run the 50 miler at Tunnel Hill. The whole point of ultra running, like, ultra runners don't go out there like running for time and thinking about like water bottle handoffs and like, you know, thinking about a second here, a second there. They go out there, like, the point of ultra running is to like experience the pain, right? The point of ultra running is to like suffer through that moment. But I didn't know that then. And by like mile 36, I'm in agony and I drop out. So then it takes about a year, I get back, I run Tunnel Hill again, and then this time I actually injured myself playing tennis with my kid. But whatever, I finished the race, right? And then I finally come back a third time last year, and I do great, not even really trying for the American record, but I only miss it by like 7 minutes. Maybe I've kind of figured out something about this distance. Maybe I'll try it again. I like the idea of pushing yourself to a mental state that's very hard to push yourself to naturally. To challenge yourself to get through it and to see whether you can have the meditative and mental abilities to get through that. So that's what I'm excited to try. It is the simplest sport, but that the fact of that simplicity opens up the possibility that if you think about it deeply and use it deeply in your life, it can be a tool to help you understand the really important and complicated stuff.